Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Vandy. So back into the Card Fate Vanguard deck profiles. If you enjoyed them, play, subscribe, and start, shall we? This time we're covering Dark States, Bruce set 6. Okay, so we all know my opinion on like set 4 Bruce, right? How I feel like Unrivaled, in my personal opinion, and I could be wrong. Well, actually, you can't be wrong at your own opinion, but basically, I didn't like Unrivaled because while yeah, the Vanguard restand was cool and all, it wasn't necessary because I noticed that there's a severe drop in power with Bruce. Like, who knew that Persona Ride made that much of a difference? Like, it's not that I won less games like because I used a different Vanguard. It's just that the games were a lot closer feeling. They ended at the same time. It just felt like they were a lot closer, you know, than what it was when I was using old Bruce. Now with this new stuff, not only can we finally do something outside of Final Rush without having to rely on generic support, but also we got some really good stuff that I think makes my deck feel super consistent. Like, I actually feel really good playing with the grade 4 Bruce now, even if I don't always ride them. So let's go ahead and get the deck profile started, and hopefully you guys will be able to see what I mean. First up, we have our starter in Diablo's Innocent Matt. Grade 0 boost, 5k shows. This KB is auto and road upon if you win second draw a card. Standard starter, not special about it. It's just a free if you win second draw card. You don't really need this starter per se, because the grade 1 doesn't require it. Now here's my thing though. This deck is, I mean, not this deck specifically, but like an older variant of it required you to have basically a bunch of cards with Diablos in their card name, or Diabolos, however you want to say it. So, you know, having Matt with, I don't remember if any of those cards are still in here, but having Matt just in case in Soul is all around really nice, because if you have to call specifically a Diablos card, you got your start. And honestly, having Matt as my starter has proven to be really useful, especially because now in this deck I can actually call him behind my Vanguard circle and then leave him there with a plus. So all around Matt's really nice to have. So use whatever star you want, but I just like having the full ride line. Then we have our Overtrigger. Hades, Dragon, Deity of Resentment. Gale, Mage, Held. Grade 0, boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Overtrigger when one Overtrigger in your deck. When revealed as a trigger, remove that card, draw a card, choose one of your gets plus 1 for the turn. And if you revealed it during your draft, activation effect, which is you get during your turn, all your Vanguards get plus 10k power, plus 1 crit ton to fight. Ah, yes, one of my top 3 favorite overs, the only over I willingly bought in real life that wasn't a Lyrica Monastero one, because Lyrica Monastero one cost literally 10 cents, and this one cost $7. Yes, I love Gale with Mage Child. For anyone that has ever fought me when I used Bruce, you know that there's a 1 in 3 games I will sack the over aggressively. The other 2 games I either will draw into it, or I won't damage check it, but I'll get it in my soul, and you'll see it go out within the first 2 turns. So pretty much whenever you fight me and you know I'm using Bruce, keep your eye out, because there is a 1 in 3 chance that I will end up sacking it, and on occasions, it has turned into 2 in 3 chance somehow. So all around, the over is pretty nice. Giving that plus 10k and a crit to Van is amazing, even if you're not on Unrivaled. Honestly, I've seen it more without Unrivaled, so take that. I mean, granted, Unrivaled showed up after, but take that as you will. I don't know what it is with the over in this deck, but this deck I see it the most in. It's cool. I like that 10k. I like the crit. You could run Obari, but like, if you play this deck right, Obari is... If you're trying to kill your opponent, Obari is the better way to go. But if you play this deck right and you just want to kind of like have fun with it, and you want to give your opponent the chance to kill you because, I don't know, you just like playing the game, in that case, don't go with Obari, I guess is what I can say. I make this Overtrigger sound like it's not worth it compared to Obari. In my opinion, Obari is not worth it compared to this, but that's just because I find the game fun when my opponent has a chance to beat me. So, Gale Mage Child, that's our over. We run 3 normal draws in Diablo's Boys Jake, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 5k base. I don't like, what was the effect draw? Right, it was Riley. I don't like her, and as I made this clear in all my other deck profiles, if there's an archetype trigger lineup, or if there's an archetype, I'm going to stick with that outside of the PGs, and if there are triggers for that archetype, we can all bet I'm going to run them. So, 3 of Jake, and on that same excuse, 4 copies of Diablo's Girl Natalie. I remember someone like went on me after the comments when I didn't run it in my Dradual deck, even though I made it painfully clear in that video why I don't run the trigger effects. Like, I have to constantly say this every video, and it kind of gets tiring that I run them based off of if it's part of the archetype or not. I don't know how many times I have to say this before people get it through their heads. So grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k base in the standard contains guard circle for Vanguard, grade 3 greater, gets plus 5k shield, cool, 20k shield. Really nice on the later games I've been figuring out. She's been coming in so much more clutch lately in the later games where she, you know, in the early game before I get to Final Rush, she ends up guarding out. Also, you know what the funny thing about this deck is? This deck has won on every single turn that I've gone into Final Rush. The first turn, it has always won, except 1 game. And that 1 game it won and that 1 game was because they sacked the over, honestly. because they actually did sack the over on 3 damage, and they couldn't have guarded me otherwise. So yeah, take that as you will. This deck's consistently killing when they're at 3 damage, and it's first final rush turn. So yeah, 4 of Natalie. Then we have our 4 crits and Diablo's Girl Mai Mai. Okay, same reason that I don't run the crit effect with Jake over here. You know, just don't like it. Also, Mai Mai is... Mai Mai loves showing up when I want her to. She always is there when I need her to be. If I need to sack a crit, sack a crit. I need to see a damage trigger, it's always most likely going to be Mai Mai. She's always there when I need it to be. I think this deck, honestly, is the deck I have set quality with. Whenever I see a trigger, it's normally when I want to see a trigger. So I think the deck responds to me being myself with this style. So yeah, 4 of crit Mai Mai, she's a good girl. And then we have Diablo's Girl Arena. Arena, for those of you who have seen me play Bruce, for those of you who know I play Bruce, we all know that Arena is the godsend of my deck. Whenever I need to sack a trigger, she's there. But not only that, whenever I say I need a heal, first drive check or damage check, always a heal. And it's always the moment I can heal with her. Every time I say, God, I wish I had more guarding power, draw, Arena. Every time I say I just need something that Arena can handle, she shows up. This thing is perfect. I don't know what it is with this heal. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it would work outside of this deck, but whatever it is, this heal loves me. I love her back. We are like an amazing power couple right now, just beating the shit out of everyone in our sight. 4 of Arena, she does her job well. Even if she didn't do this, I wouldn't run the effect heals anyways. We all know why I don't like them at this point. For those of you who don't know, they're way too gimmicky, in my opinion. Well, yes, one of them goes off more often than the other. In the situations where they don't go off, especially because both of them technically require your opponent to attack twice. I say technically because, like, not always will that be the case, but, like, the one that's more often to go off is the one that requires them to attack twice with the same unit. So, like, during that first time, that 5k might make a difference. I can definitely think of a lot of games where it would have made the difference. Like, that happens a lot more than you guys think. So, 4 of Arena, good heal. I like her, very consistent. Very good, just for me in general. Then we have our grade 1s. 3 copies of Diablo's Boy Krusty. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto one's placed on rear if you're in final rush. This unit gets +5 for the turn for every 3 cards in your soul. So, you all that play Bruce probably don't run this anymore. Here's why I run them. When I built set 4 Bruce, this boy was the demolition to everything that stood in my way. First grade 3 turn, I always get a fuck ton of soul. He would come down on the board, plus God knows how much, and basically be instant death to anyone who stared him down. Imagine having 3 of these in the back row when I have like 9 cards in soul. That's 23k swings, plus probably a Hell Blast full dive to front row, so plus 20, plus final rush buffs. So, you know, all around Krusty's pretty good, and I still run him now, and I still get a decent amount of soul pretty easy. I can still consistently hit 9. So all around Krusty's really good. Not to mention he can be placed during battle phase, so you can combo him with Julian and stuff like that. So I like him. He's a good grade 1. Gets numbers, is a dangerous swinger. Why not run him at a 3 of? Then we have our new grade 1 that I think is partially the reason why I don't have a soul problem anymore, and that buffs the fuck up out of Krusty, and that is Diablo's Girl Christine. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto when she's placed on rear from your soul. If you're final rush, soul charge 2 for every 2 cards in your soul. Okay, so there are 2 ways you can call stuff from soul in this deck. Leonard, which a lot of you are going to call me crazy for still running, even though we have Unrivaled Bruce, which, again, I question why the fuck that matters. And then, well, I know why it matters, but, like, again, there's turns you're not going to be on Unrivaled. And then Julian. So having 2 different cards I can call for stuff from soul most of the time, one of them's going to be on rear is all around pretty helpful, especially because when you call this, you don't have to use her. Actually, you do have to use her skill because it's on a May clause. But basically, she can get you a total of 4 soul. And that 4 soul is really helpful because for those of you who might be bad at math or not remember Bruce's full skill, both of them cost a soul blast of 5. This is a free soul charge 4 basically if you're at 4 damage. That means all you have to do is get 1 more soul card, and this is basically a free Bruce. Christine's good. Use her with Julian. Get basically all the soul. Actually, yeah, if you do use it with Julian, presumably you would have soul charged twice for Julian. That means both Christine and Julian on their own for the cost of 1 counter boss got you the equivalent to a Bruce. Or use Leonard. Have on hit pressure. All around, Christine is one of the best grade 1s I've seen go into Bruce support. My only thing is, 1, I wish she wasn't a final rush, like, restricted card so we can use her in the early game, but A, that makes sense. She's honestly really good for that reason and that reason alone. And I wish she wasn't on Place from Soul, but like I said, she would be way too good otherwise. So all around, I think Christine's really good. She has definitely pumped up this deck's consistency to a whole new level. So I give her a 3-0 for that, and she deserves to be at a 3-0 for that. Then we have our 4 PGs, and we're skill Hey Dragon, grade 1 boost for 0 shield for 6k base. Contains Sentinel, you have 4 sounds of the deck, and auto when playing guard circle. Choose one of these that cannot be in the battle, and if your hand is 2 or more cards, choose a card from hand, discard it. Standard PG, no special about it. If you don't know what that means when this and only one of the cards in your hand, when you place this on guard circle, you don't have to discard for it, which is really nice because that means you can be as aggressive as you want with this deck and still be able to defend yourself. Now, what I've realized from my playstyle with Bruce, it still hasn't changed from like. Actually, that's the weird thing. It changed after I used set 6. Set 4, I was so aggressive, or like as the sets went on, I was so like a lot more defensive and I would conserve my hand. Because in the earlier sets, like set 1 and 2, I would go all out rush right from the get-go. And then set 3 is when it slowed down. Set 4 was like, if I have a decent hand and I have at least duplicates of the units I want, then I'll start attacking. But even then, I'll only call that unit, or maybe I'll call another unit to support it. And now I only call 1 to 2 rear guards at most during my first grade 3 turn, and one of those is Julian, and the other one typically comes from Julian's skill. So it's really weird how I've learned that I've been a lot more defensive with this deck lately for whatever reason. The PG definitely helps though, because in the games where you are going all out right from the beginning, and you're going to need that defensive to save you in the end, the PG always comes in handy. It's nice to have. I think it's good. Run out of 4 of, unless you want to put this in place of another Diablos card. In that case, go right ahead. Just make sure it's an offense that outweighs the defense. And then we have our last grade 1, the grade 1 of the ride line, Diablo's Bad Steve. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto was placed on Vanguard. Choose a card from your soul, call it to back or rear guard center, and soul charge 1. And then change rear guard if you're in final rush, it gets +5. Cool, how I described this, and how everyone describes it when they first read it. Forerunner, because you just call Matt or whatever starter you're using, or you use Matt's skill first if you go in second, draw a card. Then you use Bad Steve, get that soul charge, and then boom. That's nice. All around, it's pretty good. And not to mention that even though you're not running the main deck, remember there are multiple ways to call stuff from soul in this deck, meaning the chance of his rear guard final rush skill going off is actually pretty active. I mean, I can tell you how many times I've called Steve to the back row for that 13k boost code. It's a good 13k booster. All around, he's a very consistent grade 1. I like him. He's really good. One of them in the ride deck, because you only need one of them in the ride deck. You can just keep looping him back to soul, then back to board, etc., etc., etc. Then we have our grade 2s. 2 copies of Diablo's Reverser, Die and Dre. So grade 2 set 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when he's placed on rear guard from your soul. If you have a vanguard boost in its card name, this unit gets +10 for the turn for every 2 cards in your damage zone. So, like I said before, this deck consistently kills on first final rush turn, and it doesn't need to go to second. Here's my thing though. A lot of people seem to forget I have Diadrain in my deck. Even when he goes to my soul, I've noticed that the turns I'll swing with Julian, because I know, like, a lot of the people I play against always guard before you use your skills, and I'm pretty sure you're supposed to use the skills before you guard. If I'm wrong, someone please correct me on that. But the thing is with Julian, I've learned that if I had chosen to call Diadrain, they wouldn't have been able to block him the first time around because his numbers would increase too much. Granted, it's only 20, but typically I have a +10 to front row via either Persona Ride or Hellblast, but Hellblast wouldn't go off for this. Point is, he'd be a 30k swing on his own, and that's a dangerous number. And I consistently get one of them in soul every game. All I'm saying is this. If I'm your opponent, watch what goes into my soul, because I play this deck like I play Pale Moon. Very dangerously and sporadically, meaning not even I know what I'm doing before I do it. I'm basically Deadpool, except I can't revive myself with my limbs being broken, though Arena does help with that. So, 2 of Dindrain. The only advice I can give you, like I said, is watch what goes into my soul, because it will come back to bite you in the ass if you forget he's in there. Then we have 3 copies of Diablo's Boys Eden, grade 2 and set 5k shield, 10k base. Contains rear guard. If you're in final rush, he gets +5, and then if it was stood by your card effect this turn, gets +1 crit. I always forget that till I start swinging with him. Then I'm like, oh right, he got the crit. I always remember the 5, but the crit. He always gets that crit. And then auto rear when this attack hits, counterblast 1 choose one of your opponent's rear guards, kill him. Again, I say, this deck has vastly changed from its old style. Before, that crit was so deadly and would be the thing I'd call him to rear guard for. Now I call him to rear guard to kill my opponent's rear guards. Because you know what the funny thing about this deck is? If I get to Unrivaled Bruce, the deck has a counterblast problem. If I never ride to Unrivaled Bruce, it doesn't have a counterblast problem. That's the weird part. I think Unrivaled Bruce just genuinely makes that much of a difference. So if I'm not going to ride into an Unrivaled Bruce that game, I can just call Eden, swing into their rear guards, and either they take it and they lose another rear guard out of it, and they think they're making me waste counterblast because they think, oh, well, Unrivaled Bruce caused a counterblast. Bitch, I'm not going into Unrivaled Bruce. What the fuck are you talking about? Or they guard it, and then they're just wasting hand cards and attack that didn't technically matter. And not to mention, he can hit the vanguard too for that ability to still go off. All around, Eden's pretty nice. Good for control plays. Good for basically, if they get to 4 damage, which is consistently the death part of this deck, they're screwed. Because I can consistently push them to 3. They have to eventually take one of my first 3 attacks, and then there's Eden staring them down with a double crit, regardless if I was on Unrivaled Bruce or regular Bruce. So, yeah, Eden's pretty good. Forces out numbers, forces out pressure. Why not run him out of 3 of? Then we have Diablo's Returner Derek. Grade 2 NSF 5k shield, 10k base. Continues rear guard. If you're in Found Rush, he gets +5. This is my least favorite of the grade 2s. The only reason I'm running him is because the only other card I would swap him with is, well, the only 2 other cards I would swap him with. One is an On Plays, and I hate that card even more than I hate Derek. And the other one being a card I do actually like is an On Hit, and it decks me out ever so slightly faster and doesn't get me back from a comeback situation. So Derek's only here because he can get me a board. That's the reason he's here, no other reason. So his ability that I run him for, but he has gotten the 5k off at least at some point, so it's not like I'm not running him for that skill too. It's just that the other skill is far more useful. Act rear, once per turn, crown boss 1, shove any rear guard to soul. From the rulings I understand of him, you can't send himself to soul because it says a rear guard. Someone please correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you can send himself to soul and the effect will still go off. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards for every 4 cards your soul, murder it. Then if you're in Final Rush, look at the same number of cards on top of your deck equal to the number of your opponent's open rear guards. Choose any number of unit cards from one of them, call them to rear guard circle, put the rest to bottom. So you cannot make a board if you're not in Final Rush. Now that I'm thinking about that in hindsight, I'm really hoping that game I recorded earlier I was in Final Rush because now I don't remember. But anyways, cool. Nuke board slightly, and if you have a fuck ton of soul, that's just a free board nuke basically. And not to mention the fact you're getting more rear guards or getting more soul cards to fill up with Bruce. All around, Derek is a nice grade 2. I don't like him. I don't know what it is. I think it's just the art, or maybe it's part of the skill that I don't like, but I do think his skill is useful, so run him out of 3 for that. Then we have 3 copies of Diablo's Jetpacker Leonard. In my opinion, and no offense to Eden, who has been getting the kills lately, he's been putting in work. Leonard is, in my opinion, the most important grade 2 in this deck. Here's why. I hate it when people said when grade 4s first came out that stuff like Urger, especially Urger, because people give him Urger a hard fucking time. And yet Urger was winning me so much of my games, and I wanted to say so badly everyone was wrong. So there's Urger, Danny Maru, Leonard. Bastion never got one to my memory that was like specifically you have to be on that Bastion, and I don't think that Seraph Snow got one either, but at least I can't remember any of them being that good. Leonard was one of the ones where I was like, again, people, why does it matter? One, you gotta remember, you have to ride the grade 3 before you get to the grade 4. And there are games where you're not going to be on the grade 4. And you're most likely thought of this already, so you're probably going to run Persona rides just in case, especially for decks like Mag and maybe for Bruce. Who knows? I could see Bruce not running them. Point is, though, on the turn you are on regular Bruce, Leonard is going to be the deadliest thing on your board. Here's why. Continuous rear, if you're in Final Rush, this gets +5, and when it attack, it battles all your opponent's units in the same column. So yeah, that involves you being on Final Rush, which you might ride into Unrivaled before then, but basically, he's a 15k column killer, and typically, he already has a +10 on him, either via Persona Ride or Hellblast, so 25k column killer. Now, either you swing into the Vanguard column, and then they take the back row center, and then they just guard the Vanguard, and you get his second effect off, or you just kill the column on the sides, and slowly kill their rear guard for free, while Eden does the other column. And the reason why you do this is auto rear, when this attack hits into anything, soul charge 1, regardless of who your Vanguard is. And if your Vanguard is Diablo's Violence Bruce, choose up to 1 card from your soul, call it an open rear guard circle. Now, that's why I run him. He doesn't have to be in Final Rush. He's one of the, I think he was the first card we got that didn't have to be in Final Rush for good support skills, or outside of Eden, because you get that soul charge guaranteed, and then if you're on the OG Bruce, which I think some people forgot, you get that soul charge first, you then get to call a rear guard. All around is pretty good. Goes for a nice early game rush when you're going first grade 3 turn, when you're kind of going vanilla moves, allows you to fill up your board for next turn. And if you have to stick on normal Bruce, which in my opinion is still better than Unrivaled Bruce, he's more dangerous because he's a column killer and he gets 2 free calls. Leonard's a good grade 2. I know some people don't like him, and I don't really know which one I wanted to pick out of all my grade 2s, so I chose to run them all at 3 ofs except for Dindrain, who would have been at a 3 of if it wasn't for Richard. So take that as you will. All around, Leonard's pretty good though. He's one of my favorites, so 3 of. And then we have our last grade 2, the grade 2 of the ride line. Diablo's Anger Richard at 1 copy, grade 2 and 5k shield, 10k base. Always placed on Van, put a rear guard soul, draw a card, and if continues rear guard, if you're in Final Rush, he gets +5. Anyone else ever realize that back in, or at least to my opinion, like from what I noticed, back in the day when Bruce first came about with this, everyone would snipe Matt in the back row. And for some reason, or at least from what I've seen, no one snipes Matt anymore. And that's either because, like, I'm playing against matchups that don't specifically have rearguard retiring that early, or I'm just, like, not seeing games that have it. Because I swear, it's something that should be common sense, right? Murder the fucking card that gets them a free draw, especially when I don't think a lot of Bruce players actually call stuff. But I don't know if it's just me, but I haven't seen matchups in forever where people actually are able to kill that thing, so you just get that constant free draw. But again, it just has a rear guard, so if you want to be paranoid and call a unit down just to suffer to soul just in case they kill your mat, that's fair. And then the +5 for your final rush. Like I said, for Julian and Leonard, you can call them out from soul. Like, it makes a good option if you have no other choice for good attackers. But remember, Crafty is better. Sorry, Crafty is better because it gets numbers. This is better because it gets soul and gets Crafty bigger numbers. Din Dryand is probably at least 10 times twice as better if you have 2 damage. Eden does the exact same thing, but better if you're in final rush. And Derek, okay, Derek we can argue all we want, but I think Derek is still better. And then we have Leonard, who again is better in final rush and just better on rear in general. So, you know, Richard, he'll be in your soul the whole game. If you really need him, go ahead, pull him out. But otherwise, he kind of just stays there and watch from the sidelines. Good grade 2, though. I like his Vanguard skills, so one of them in the right deck. Then we move on to our grade 3s. 3 copies of the MVP in the early game. Diablo's Diver, Julian. First I want to say, why does he look gay to me? That's not meant to be an insult. I don't know why, but, like, him just doing this, like, reminds me of a video I saw where, like, this guy who is canonically gay, like, pushed his glasses up in, like, the snarkiest way possible, and that's what that reminds me of. I don't know why. And then he just has that cool fucking wings, though. The wings look so beautiful, in my opinion. Like, honestly, if his skill wasn't even good, I would still run him for the art. So, Julian over here is an auto greer once per turn. When this unit attacks a vanguard, by the way, it's once per turn per card, so if you have multiple Julians, you can do it again. Counter blast 1, this unit gets +2 for the turn for each card in your damage zone. So basically the most he'll be is a 23. Nice. And then if you're vanguard, oh wait, rewind. The most he can get is 25. You want to know how? That ability isn't restricted to you being on a Bruce. The second part of it is, not the first. So if you're on a Greedon, it still gets +25. +15. Anyways, and then if your Vanguard is a Bruce, you have to soul charge 1 for every 2 cards you damage zone. And then you can choose up to the same number of cards soul charged by this effect and call them to open rearguard circles from your soul. So again, you have to soul charge if you pay the cost at all. You don't have to call. So he can develop a board, he can do it without you being in final rush, he can get you 2 soul basically for free if you're 4 damage or more, and he gets numbers and can force out stuff from your opponent's hand. All around, Julian is like the MVP of this deck. The only reason I don't run him out of 4 is because I consistently draw him anyways. I've literally drawn a Julian every game. I have always seen all 3 copies of Julian. Typically as 1 in damage, the other 2 end up in hand really quickly. So, and even the one time one ended up in soul, I just called the other one. So just in case the front one got nuked, I got the second one in the back row. So yeah, Julian all around is like one of those grade 3s that I just gotta say, but she did a good job designing in Overdress. Because a lot of times I hate on Overdress support cards. This is one of the support cards I actually like. Like, doesn't require you to be on a specific Bruce, just requires you to be on a Bruce. So if they make another Bruce, which I don't think they will, but if they do for some reason, then cool, we can use it with that Bruce. And he still gets numbers, so he's like, his first skill is literally generic to all of Dark States, and then gets better with Greedon. But then the second skill is better for Bruce. All around, Julian's an amazing grade 3. I like him. Get you rear guards, get you soul, get you numbers. Why not run him out of 3 of? Then we have 3 copies, 2 copies in the right deck, 1 copy in the main deck of Diablos Violence Bruce. So grade 3, 200% right, 13k base, auto van. At the start of your ride phase, you final rush specific units, get a power up in their final rush, aka everything in this deck that isn't fucking Julian in the PG, and Bruce himself, obviously. Actually, no, Bruce does get a benefit out of it, because auto van, when this unit attacks, if you're in final rush, soul blast 5, stand all your front or rears. So, you get multi-attack, and that is easily consistent to pull out in this game. Here's why. Julian, 2 soul. This thing, 2 soul. Here's what you do. To get 2 soul for Julian, you have to have 4 damage. So you use Julian, you're at 4 damage, soul charge 2, call 1 Kirsten, skill, you soul charge 2 for every 2 cards in damage zone, meaning you soul charge 4. Boom! Just from 2 cards and 1 counterblast, you manage to get everything you need for the cost of Bruce over here. So, you know, that's why I love this deck so much. It can consistently hit the soul amount you need just to do whatever the fuck you want. and just getting a front row restand is amazing. Doesn't cost counterblast either, which means you just get freebies to Julian and Derek and stuff like that, with still being able to use your main skill. All around, I like Bruce for that reason alone, and he has the Persona Ride, and that definitely helps with the numbers in this deck. So, you know, 2 of Bruce in the main deck because, well, yeah, you might want to... I know some people like Unrivaled Bruce more. Me, personally, I like him more for the art, not because of the skill. Skill, I don't like. But for those of you that like Unrivaled Bruce more, I still think you can keep this deck the same because I still draw Unrivaled Bruce a lot. And, you know, I'm still able to make plays with it. So take that as you will. But I do like having those 2 copies of the Persona because it makes me feel safe. So 2 of Bruce in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck. And then we have our last unit in the deck, not our last card, though. And that is our main grade... Well, this is our main grade 3. This is our grade 4. It is Diablos Unrivaled Bruce! I'm sorry, I had to do it that way. Grade 4, triple drive, 13k base. Godlike arc. We just see fucking Bruce with big-ass wings and a like dynamite-looking football just charging through the pitch, and everyone in his way is dying. Auto Van, at the start of your ride phase to end of turn, you found a rush. Cool, so he gets the exact same skill as Bruce over here. And Auto Van, once per turn, at the end of the battle, this unit attack. If you are in final rush, Caraboss 1, still boss 1, stand all your front using this unit, lose a drive for the turn. Shoot 2 drives for the turn. So, doesn't have to attack a Vanguard. Same with Bruce over here. So you can just swing into a rear guard. And here's the thing I find good about Unrivaled, is that this one you have to do beforehand when you attack, so you haven't pulled triggers yet. So if your numbers are kind of lacking and your opponent sacks a trigger and shuts it all down, you won't know that till after you pay the cost. So you may have just wasted 5 soul for nothing. Like, that's kind of what sucks against this, is that they sack the over, but right after the attack you wasted 5 soul. For this one, they sack the over before you pull off the skill. So you're not wasting 5 soul in the counterboss, unless you just want to get that free extra drive check. But all around Unrivaled, and just like murder the rear guards via like Eden and Leonard and shit like that. But all around, Unrivaled Bruce is pretty nice. I do like his art. Me personally, I'm not a big fan of that front row restand because like it doesn't need it. It puts me a little bit too close to deck out. Yes, I have won games off it, but like I would have won those games anyways. In fact, I would have won them more consistently because I would have still had that draw from the Persona Ride and just kept the technically kept the triple drive. So like, you know, I mean, yeah, the quad drive isn't what won me the game in the end. It was just the triple drive. So yeah, take that as you will. Unrivaled's a good grade 3 and all. Good grade 4 and all. I'm not gonna lie. It's just that me personally, the deck doesn't need him in my opinion. Though I do run him just for that little bit of flair and just because I like his art, so might as well. But yeah, if I do see him, I tend to have counterboss problems because I'll ride him immediately. So 2 of Unrivaled Bruce, good grade 4. He's nice. Take that as you will. And the last card in our deck is 2 copies of the order that I love with my living soul, Hellblast Full Dive. Grade 3, normal order, counterblast 1 to play it, draw a card, choose a card from your hand, call it to rear guard, and then if you're in final rush, all your front row gets plus 10 for the turn. Okay, so good. Let's unpack that. You get a draw, you get to call something, and your whole front row probably gets plus 10. I love this order. It's so amazing. I remember when it first came out, I was fucking dominating games. Like, imagine a Persona Ride plus this and Marjorie too back in those days. Oh, that was so fun. I felt bad for my friend when I fought him with that because that was just instant death. Like, Hellblast Full Dive, I've had so much stories with. I don't hate Pandemonium Tactics, but it's like still today one of my least favorite Bruce orders. So, you know, Hellblast Full Dive, I'll take over it any day. Gets that call, gets that power, gets everything I need to do. 2 up. Also has the moon in the background, so I'm a little biased towards it. But also, I just like the art having all the ride line there. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, it's pretty good. Like I said, consistently killing on first final rush turn. Basically, my soul is my toolbox. I play this deck like I play Pale Moon. Basically, like how Deadpool is very unpredictable, very sporadic, and not even I know what I'm doing half the time. So, and yet, somehow it still works in a very deadly way. So I'm going to end it here. Hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join the Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.